Thanks for joining us on Khari Free at Last on Bounce 23 TV. I'm Khari in Nahara. According to the National Poverty Center, nearly 150 million Americans are either poor or low income, while 4 out of 5 adults struggle with joblessness or reliance on welfare. Yes, there should be a war, but that war should be on poverty. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow and the Reverend John Coates. 150 million people, Pastor, in poverty or in low income. Wait, that's 1 out of 2.
It's 1 out of 2. There's more people that's in my church, by the way. But it's a staggering number. In fact, I don't believe those are the real numbers. I believe that the numbers are actually higher. You know, it's like those unemployment rates that they give you. They don't necessarily include the part-time people or people that are working seasonal or what have you. 150
million, Earth Jallow.
That means probably half of those are children being raised in poverty households, and that's a problem. That means inadequate food, inadequate health care, everything.
How did we, look, even in the Great Depression, we didn't have this many people that were living in poverty or low income. How does the president and the Congress address this, or have they chosen not to?
Well, I think there's an old adage that says that your treasure is where your heart is. And what's happening is that we look at our national budget and the amount of money that we're putting into defense, into law enforcement type activities, instead of investing those dollars into people. And we live in a society now where government is spouting the rhetoric that we shouldn't give people anything. So there's lack of compassion that's taking place, but yet there's heavy spending on the military side.
Well, no wonder they're preparing for urban training. They're trying to talk about, well, you know, we've got to prepare for terrorists at the urban. The terrorists are going to be 150 million people who are poor and hungry.
Well, let me say this. Now, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Do we flip it and say 150 million people in
poverty? Now, be careful now. You got the man of God.
So I'm prepared to fight the devil, if anything.
Oh, this is,
yeah, you know, in fact, Satan the Lord rebuke you.
Already.
Right,
right. Yes.
However, you know, can we look at this 150 million and say that we have been conditioned to wait on somebody to give us something, and so that's what has happened instead of us going out and getting things for ourselves, making money with your hands.
Oh, you're making excuses.
Entrepreneurship.
Wait a minute.
Not looking for jobs in the sector that the jobs aren't there.
You know, wait, I thought I was the conservative.
Good. You sound like Newt Gendricks.
Is that why you called it the devil's advocate? There is that sounds like some of the rhetoric that we're hearing from Capitol Hill. I believe that the vast majority of people want to work. The vast majority of people, if they had the opportunity to go into business, would do so.
So what's preventing you from going into business? We have an influx of outsiders coming into the United States, and I'm looking at the little pockets that we have, and they set up shop. They have their own restaurants, their own grocery stores, their own car repair places. What is preventing us who have lived here for all of this time to get these things?
Well, what's preventing us, Reverend?
Well, there's several factors that are involved, and part of which we bear responsibility for as well, because we say that, well, maybe the immigrant population that's coming into the United States receives special benefits from the government.
Well, don't
and the answer is yes.
So they also work together, too.
The other aspect is that when they move here, they may move 2 or 3 families in, and then they'll start one business together, and then they'll branch into another business,
why can't we look at that model and do the same thing? We're all
first of all, start by evicting the people who control the black economy right now. You go into your neighborhoods, there are no black businesses there.
Absolutely, they're not.
Who's controlling? Why don't you evict them? Why don't you stop patronizing?
And we can do that, and we can also, we live separately now.
They mistreat you, they put up fiberglass when anyone touch your hand.
And they kill you. Well, they do shoot to kill.
So we can come together as a people, we can move our grandmothers, uncles, and aunts, and we can do the same thing.
But how come the March on Washington didn't hold Obama accountable for 150 million people being in poverty?
Okay,
poverty rates have gone up, not down.
First of all, I need clarification. Which March on Washington?
Right.
Okay, there was Reverend Sharpton had a march, and the president and Reverend Bernice King had a march. So I'm trying to understand which one are you?
Whatever march it was, why is no one speaking about 150 million people living in poverty or low income in this country?
I hear a lot of conversation about poverty, but what we don't hear is we don't hear plans
Or solutions.
solutions to bring people out
I'm
of
not
poverty.
hearing conversations about poverty. Are you?
I'm particularly me. No, I'm not. I see people in survival mode is what I'm seeing. People are struggling to survive every day. They're gonna cut the food stamps. They're gonna cut the welfare. Your utilities are gonna go up. So if
We haven't
have
seen nothing yet because this stuff kicks in the month of September.
Absolutely.
We haven't seen the kick in yet. So all of the resources that people are getting are going to be diminished. And at the same time, they're expecting Obamacare to kick in 3 months.
What we're not hearing
Where
is
do we
that-
go from here?
Well, it's another part of the factor is that the vast
tell you
majority
what.
of those on welfare are not African American.
Gotcha. More food stamps than jobs? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The USDA says for the first time in American history, the number of people receiving government food stamps and food aid is greater than the number of full-time private sector workers. Wow. 101 million people in America receive food aids, surpassing the 96 million full-time private sector workers. Joining me is TalkToMeRadio.com host Earth Jallow and the Reverend John Coates. Whoa! 101 million people on food stamps, because we've always been told, the total is just 47. It's just 40. Now we're getting the real deal from the Department of Agriculture. They're saying 101 million people on food stamps to get food aid. So that's food stamps.
Well, you think we're getting the right number. They're probably finally making an adjustment.
Right.
And the numbers are probably still incorrect.
But how does an economy grow when more people on food stamps and food aid than are working in the private sector, which is supposed to be the thing that makes the engine grow? Are we headed for a collapse in this country?
We very well may be. And that means that...
Or are we at a collapse already?
Yeah, I
Just
was
don't
about to
know
say,
it.
it seems like it's
well,
chipping off.
It's not at a collapse yet because things are still functioning. And these are Band-Aid approaches to keep industry rolling. The food stamps are purchasing the food at the grocery stores.
Whoa. What industry, Earth Jallow? I don't see. What do you mean industry rolling, Reverend Coates? What, the industry of sports?
No, but
is that what you're talking about? What industry are you talking about? Because that's no industry.
The fact of the matter is that your local grocery store hasn't closed yet.
Well, they
okay?
should,
It's a
'cause they're selling
crisis.
poison.
It's a crisis when they start closing. It's a crisis when your bank starts shutting down. I don't believe we're that far from that from happening, but and it's a crisis when the dollar collapses. Okay, but we ought to be concerned.
So who's making the money off of these food stamps? You got all these Americans on food stamps and food aid. Who's hustling this money, Earth Jallow?
You know, who's hustling the money? Who always hustles the money?
I don't know.
Khari?
Tell
People
me.
at the top, you know? It's always the people who always have the money already.
Somebody
who gets more
pimping
of
the
the
money? Somebody
you know?
pimping the money, Reverend Coates, huh?
Well, somebody's always pimping. Somebody's always pimping the money. Somebody's always in control. Somebody's always taking advantage.
Absolutely.
Somebody's always cheating. Somebody's always stealing. But the person that's stealing
How did we get
doesn't always
in this
caught.
mess, Reverend? How did we get to the point where they shouldn't even be close to this?
Because
and
America,
yet we keep talking about we're number one
America
in the world.
shifted from a manufacturing economy to a consumer economy.
So you ship all the jobs out overseas. That leaves people out of employment, right? Then you have, schools that are not doing well here. So you're producing people who are workers and not really, what do I want to say? Not creators.
So we have become a so-called third world economy.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
People wouldn't want
That's
to hear
easy.
that, but the reality is that that's the
101
truth.
million people on food stamps?
That is the truth.
I'm left with no other. Now, what are our political leaders? What are our political leaders doing about
Well,
this, Reverend Coates?
many believe nothing, and that's why the dissatisfaction numbers with members of Congress are very high. That's why Congress has a very low approval rating right now, because the people don't see any solutions coming from our governmental body.
And
How
I
long
totally
can this
agree.
go on,
It
Earth
can't
Jallow?
go on much longer because people are getting frustrated. And you talking about who's getting the money?
Yeah.
We have to really start uncovering things and look at Monsanto, who is with the GMO seeds. So the things that you're buying in the grocery store isn't food, and it's not good for your body. It's breaking us down and it's making us sick. So now you have the healthcare industry that now you have brought in. You got drugstores set up on every corner, sometimes two across the street from one another.
You got people even selling it. Well, they don't get stamps anymore. What do they get? Like, look, checks.
They got cards.
Yeah.
So are they selling that?
I mean, yeah, well, I would say that they would have to probably sell, if you get any amount of, decent amount of food stamps to feed your family, if you have any left over, I've known people to say, you know, if you give me X amount of money, I'll give you X amount of food stamps.
You've known
that? Yeah, I've known that because people...
Wait a minute, wait. He's messing with you.
Yeah, I am.
You know, he done already called you the devil.
I'm not listening to him.
He done already called you the devil, so you got to work your way out of it.
Because they have to supplement. So if you get all these food stamps and you have a minimal amount of money, how do you pay your bills? How do you pay your utilities? How do you get your soap, your toothpaste, and your toilet paper if you have children in the house?
Well, the reality is that if the food stamps and other forms of assistance is not there, then the average neighbor may become a terrorist because someone that has a hungry child will make sure that their child is fed.
It's going to turn out to be New Orleans revisited all over what we saw in 2005. Right. How do we work our way out of this, Reverend Coates?
We need to become a manufacturing economy before. We should have known when we stopped producing televisions and VCRs and all those things. We should have known that
the smart boys at the top knew that. Come on.
Right. The smart boys at the top were making money.
Yeah,
they
that's
made
what
money.
they knew.
They don't care about America?
They made money. No, they care about their own pockets and their own money.
These are not patriots?
No. Please.
Huh?
And in fact, I think that they're the worst type of traitor because they betrayed the American people.
They have become traitors. Is that what you're telling me?
I agree.
Should they be tried?
I agree.
And that's what we expected our president to be the leader. When he said change, we thought that was going to flip, didn't we?
Well, rather than try them, we should welcome them back into the American economy.
How?
Well, by tax credits and other incentives that we can give to businesses.
You want the same thing done with the bankers, or do you want some of them to go to jail? Because all that money is coming out. 147 companies run the world.
Well,
147.
I don't believe the final shoe has dropped with the banking situation yet.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
The derivatives, all the derivatives have not been called, and the gambling debts.
Yeah. I think politicians in Congress should have to pay for health care just like the rest of the American people. I think they should have to pay taxes just like the American people, and so that they can start realizing and understanding.
Well, congressmen they do pay taxes.
But you've got people...
You know what I'm saying. They don't have to pay for health care.
But you've got people,
but
Earth, you got people living in extreme poverty. You got people now surviving on $5 a day,
right.
$2 a day. Any of us can walk down and see people digging out of garbage cans. Don't matter what color. We see all colors digging out of garbage cans, trying to survive. What in God's name are we going to do, Reverend?
Well, we have to do something. Now, of course, I pray, but then we get up and then we get up and have to do
prayer
something
without
about
works
it.
is what?
It's dead. It's dead. And Jesus said that the kingdom of God is at hand, and I can put a hammer and a saw in my hand and
what do you want the average person in the city of Columbus and Central Ohio, state of Ohio, and America to do?
I want them to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, to look around them and see what goods and
you're talking about a legal entrepreneurial mindset.
But the underground economy is alive and well, but all of the underground economy isn't necessarily illegal.
For example, give me one.
The government might not be getting their taxes, but like babysitting or hair braiding or hair cutting. You don't need a license for braiding, do you?
Well, yeah, you do. You actually do now. You actually do now. You need a license to hair braid now.
So what you're saying is that we got to turn this thing around, in some kind of way, so that we can get people. How much time do we have? Because
we don't have much time.
How much time?
3 years.
Behind the 8 ball already.
By 2016?
Yes.
You think it's going to come down?
I think it's going to come down rapidly, and that's a presidential election year as well.
Yes, it is.
I think
so. We could look at a conservative landslide unless the president turned this around, right?
I believe so.
Whoa. Drug testing for people on welfare. Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. To add fuel to the fire, a Central Ohio lawmaker wants people seeking welfare to pass the drug test. He says taxpayer money should not be used to support drug dealers. Testing people on food stamps. My God. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow and the Reverend John Coates. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. On top of people being poor, Now they're going to drug test you to see if you can get food stamps.
Remember?
Well, what I'm sure this lawmaker is expressing is that he recognizes the drug problem in rural white America and believes that this particular population ought to be tested for drugs because of the drug influence in rural white Ohio. So it's a good idea for that community.
Wait a minute. So that means if you lose your job and you have to go on food stamp because your job got shipped over to China, Indonesia, Mexico, then all of a sudden you're coming to get what is owed to you because you pay taxes.
Absolutely.
Now you got to be drug tested.
Well, look, I get hired at a job. I get a new job. I have to have a background check. I have to have a drug test. I apply for practically anything else. I need to have a drug test. They require me to fill up the bottle.
This is insane.
But
you're getting paid. All you're getting with food stamps is survival money.
That you
just enough
paid
that you
already.
paid that you already supposed to have.
So let me ask this question to you. Is there abuse taking place in the system? Are there
What
people
system? Which system?
Within the economic system, within the welfare system, within America? Are there drug dealers that are taking advantage of poor people and offering them money in order to use their homes or to sell drugs or
I'm
whatever?
sure there is, but guess what?
That's not the majority.
In Florida, when they tested all of the people who they thought they were going to catch,
1%?
It was like a 1 to 2% net rate. That means it's a waste of taxpayers'
That's why I'm suggesting
money.
they should go to rural, to the rural areas and test.
You're just a hardcore New Denver conservative.
My thing is this: if you want to test for, people who are receiving assistance, why don't we start at the top? Let's start testing the judges, the lawmakers, Congress. Let's do that.
You want to test the mayor?
Absolutely.
You want to drug test the president?
Absolutely.
Now, president already told you, so why you want to mess with him?
Because if the commoners have to be tested, then everybody should have to be tested.
So you opposed to it?
You darn straight.
Why?
Get out of...
Look,
the government has too many hands into your personal business, into your personal life. They want to drug test you for this. They want to cut you this. Now they're monitoring your phone calls and your emails and your text messages. I mean, why don't you just invite them into your living room?
Because the legislator says that this money could be going to drug dealers. It's taxpayer money. So that's his job to safeguard it.
Is he paying taxes?
Yeah, he's paying taxes.
Okay, but he's not the only one, so it's not his particular money. Why is everybody concerned about where everybody else's money goes? Worry about your own pockets.
Your money? You want your tax money going to drug dealers?
Listen, first of all...
Answer.
First of all, she wants the drugs legalized.
Wait, right.
No.
First of all, okay, I don't feel like I need to be paying taxes anyway because I'm poor. Let's just get that out there right now. Okay, so I think that the people with money, the millionaires and the billionaires, you're darn straight. Millionaires and billionaires, they let them pay the taxes. They got the money. The poor people don't have the money. We have higher gas in our neighborhoods, okay? We have higher grocery stores, pricing in the grocery stores for our neighborhoods. Poor people are already getting sucked under.
Well, you're talking about the working poor. I would assume you're talking about the working poor.
That's everybody poor people up and down my street, all around.
So the Section 8 certificate that someone may be receiving for housing, that doesn't have a value to it. The $1,200 or $500 they may be receiving each month for food stamps, that doesn't have a value to it.
Maybe they have fell on hard times. Maybe they paid into that system, so that system, that's their money. So they should be able to get it back when they need it.
Well, you can only pay taxes in America through income tax, property tax, and sales tax.
So you're saying poor people haven't contributed to the economy?
No, we certainly have.
You know what she's saying?
Absolutely.
What she's saying is that everybody ought to be treated equally. That's what I hear her saying.
I agree with that.
Isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to test one for drugs, you need to test everybody.
In essence, start off testing that Central Ohio lawmaker who wants to.
Absolutely.
Let's see your test for the next. Let's see all your family's tests. Let's see all your relatives. Let's see all your. So if you're going to put me under the block, you got to go under the block.
That would be a bold move for a legislator to say, let us get drug tested first.
Absolutely.
That would be.
And that's interesting.
Then people might be more, apt to say,
did we require Governor Kasich to take drug tests before he ran for governor?
Okay.
Did we require Michael Coleman to take a drug test before he ran for mayor?
So all of the elected officials need to be tested.
Are you asking about the governor and the mayor for any?
I'm asking you, did we? Now, Mayor Coleman would probably oppose that. I don't know where Kasich will come out, but did we require our elected officials to take a drug test?
No, I don't know if they have.
And they should be required because they're going to be serving the public. And
Reverend
they're in the
Coach,
public
don't you believe this is a form of oppression?
I believe that everyone should be required to do the same things.
Meaning what?
If you pass
Don't
a law,
be pious with me.
Don't be pious. Well, I can't help it. But if you're going to pass a law for one group of people, it should apply to everyone.
So it should be equal across the board.
Darn Skippy.
And you're saying the same thing?
Absolutely.
So no testing of people who have to go get welfare.
No.
Just let the money flow to the drug dealers. Is that what you're saying?
Or test everybody.
Or test everybody equally.
And we can't prove that it's flowing to the drug dealers. That's a small population.
And now we know what business to go into. Let's all go into the drug testing business.
Okay.
We'll do well.
Well, you know, it's not going to make that much money. There's not much going on with it. But the question is, why do they do it? What is the motive behind this?
Because
is it a race-based motive? Is it a class-based motive?
The motive is to satisfy constituency base, to make sure that they're the watchdog of
by picking on poor
money.
people. By picking on poor people.
Is that the first time poor people have been
How
picked?
about we do this? All the big contractors in the state of Ohio who get contracts, all of their CEOs and executives have to be tested for drugs before they get the contract.
Sounds wonderful.
No, if you're going to drug test and you're worried about constituency money, that's where the big money goes.
Absolutely.
Why not drug test them, John?
But will that ever happen?
Yes, it'll happen. If we demand it, if we call for it.
Well, let's see. Let's call for it today.
We have to stop.
All major corporate CEOs, go pee in the bottle. Okay?
We have to stop acting like we have
And make
no
sure there's
power as a
evidentiary
people.
chain of custody.
Wasting tax dollars. Up next on Khari, free at last. Welcome to Khari, free at last. Critics say drug testing stigmatizes poor people and wastes taxpayer dollars. The Associated Press says in Florida, and I mentioned this earlier, 108 people tested positive out of more than 4,000 who took the drug test. Good God. Is this a waste of taxpayers' dollars? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Irv Jallow and the Reverend John Coates. Talk about wasting taxpayers' dollars.
It's not the first time that savvy politicians have wasted dollars on crazy studies and everything else. So
I don't want my money spent for stupid stuff.
Well,
I want my money spent for development and creating jobs that last and are livable wages that get people out of food stamp lines, out of poverty. That's what I want, not testing food stamp recipients.
It's just funny to me because they wasted money in Florida testing the recipients before. And like you said, 108 out of over 4,000. So you're going to waste money again doing, I don't understand why you keep wasting money.
My God, that's somewhere about what, 1.1%, something like that?
The beauty in a democracy is those poor people can register to vote. And they can
voting for who?
They can leverage their vote against whoever is oppressing them.
I'm taking the position now that we have no representation. That's the problem. These people who claim to represent you, you didn't buy their seats. And so they represent the people who bought their seats, and that ain't us.
But what's our participation, though, in the voting process? We can't factor ourselves out of that because
create your own
exist.
city councils. Create your own local councils. Bypass those representatives and go straight to the people who make the decisions.
And be made subject to the regular council and the regular legislature that exists.
Not necessarily, no. What you can do is that you can let them know you don't need them unless they fear you more than they fear the people who bought the seat.
But you're still paying the taxes, you're still paying the fees, you're still paying everything that they impose on you.
Because you're still an American, and you're going to be an American, but what we don't have is democracy.
And we need to start at the top. If we're going to start at the top, then bypass the politicians and go straight to the corporations.
Go straight to the people who run things. That's the problem.
Corporations.
Because the politicians sitting in those seats, from what you and I have talked about, are basically dysfunctional at this point. Agree or disagree?
I agree. We need to do both. We can't ignore one system that we live within, but we need to develop processes in order to govern our processes.
What was that? Okay.
Processes to govern ourselves.
Okay, I had to get that straight.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying something else. But I had to be clear.
But, you know, the corporations are the ones who's running things and who's buying the seats and who's supplying millions of dollars to these political campaigns. And that's what we have to start looking at. We have tax abatements that haven't been paid. You want to talk about schools in a bad situation?
Who holds the corporations accountable in the state of Ohio?
Yeah, who does?
Who does that?
Well, the government tries to regulate corporations. If it's a retail-oriented corporation, the consumers may hold them accountable by actually patronizing them. So
through the government consumer facilities?
no,
Give me a break.
through where you spend your dollars.
How? You don't have any options. That's the problem. You're trapped. You got people who live in low-income communities say, well, why not buy there? Because a lot of them don't have the income to go outside the community. They're living in an economic apartheid system. That's exactly what's going on in many of these communities. You agree or disagree?
Oh, I agree. But we need to do something about it.
What? That's the case. Do what?
We need to do something for self.
So can we vote everybody out? Can we vote the people out that are not doing what they're supposed to do and get some people in there who aren't afraid?
I say keep them there. I said strengthen your own grassroots. Vote your own neighborhood councils, your own city councils, and then go straight to the power sources and demand those. And when the city council people try to interfere, you say, if you interfere, we will also organize against you. You got to change this model because with the current model, it's not democracy. Do you agree?
It's certainly not democracy, and we have to do what's in our best interest. But we have to be very careful not to take your words to a point where we feel that our backs are so far up against the wall.
150 million. How many? What's next? 200 million people living in poverty?
And his friends begin to snatch corporate CEOs out of their office buildings.
I didn't say that.
And take them in the street and beat them down.
No,
is that what
no, I'm not saying it. I'm saying go around it. Thanks to Talk to Him, the radio host Irv Jallo and Reverend John Coates. And thank you, Coates. And thank you for
That's
joining.
my German name.
Thank you for joining us. This is Khari, free at last.